Sometimes people misunderstand what love really looks like. They believe love is always loud, always present, always texting, always calling, always showing up. They believe if someone truly loves them, that person will never step away, never create distance, never disappear for a while. But real love doesn't always look like constant presence. Sometimes real love looks like restraint. Sometimes real love looks like silence. Sometimes real love looks like a man stepping back, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares enough to let you become who you are supposed to be. A lot of people want attention, but attention and love are not the same thing. Attention is easy to give. Anybody can call you 10 times a day. Anybody can send you messages all night long. Anybody can sit beside you and tell you sweet words. But love is deeper than that. Love asks a harder question. Love asks, what is best for her future? Even if it means I have to step out of the way for a while. A man who truly cares about you understands something most people never think about. He understands that growth requires space. He understands that people need room to breathe, room to think, room to discover who they really are. If he tries to control every moment of your life, if he tries to occupy every second of your attention, if he makes you dependent on his presence just to feel okay, that isn't love. That is fear. That is insecurity dressed up like affection. Real love is strong enough to step back. Real love says, I want you to become the best version of yourself, even if that journey means I cannot stand right beside you every moment. That kind of love is rare because it requires maturity. It requires confidence. It requires a man to understand that your purpose is bigger than his ego. Sometimes a man disappears not because he stopped loving you, but because he realized that being constantly present might hold you back. Maybe you need time to focus on your dreams. Maybe you need time to heal from things he cannot fix. Maybe you need to grow in ways that require independence. Maybe you need to grow in ways that require independence. A man who truly loves you does not stand in the way of that process. Too many people think love means possession. They think love means holding on tightly, never letting go, always demanding attention. But when someone truly values you, they don't try to cage you. They don't try to make you small so they can feel big. They don't try to keep you dependent just to prove their importance in your life. A real man looks at the woman he loves and sees potential. He sees strength. He sees a future that might be bigger than both of them. And sometimes loving you means stepping aside so you can walk toward that future without pressure, without distraction, without confusion. That kind of decision is not easy. Walking away from someone you care about is one of the hardest things a person can do. It goes against every instinct in your heart. Your heart wants to stay close. Your heart wants to hear their voice every day. Your heart wants to be part of every moment. But love is not just about what the heart wants in the moment. Love is about what the soul understands over time. When a man truly cares, he asks himself a question that many people avoid. He asks, am I helping her become stronger, or am I becoming a distraction from the life she is meant to build? And if he is honest enough to see that his constant presence might interfere with your growth, sometimes the most loving thing he can do is take a step back. Now understand something clearly. Disappearing does not always mean leaving forever. Sometimes it simply means creating distance so both people can grow. It means giving the relationship room to breathe instead of suffocating it with constant pressure. It means allowing life to shape both individuals into stronger versions of themselves. When a man disappears out of love, it is not dramatic. It is not loud. He does not make a big announcement. He does not try to punish you or test you. He simply steps back quietly, hoping that the space he creates will allow you to move forward without feeling tied down. But many people misinterpret this. They think distance always means rejection. They think silence always means someone stopped caring. But sometimes silence is the language of sacrifice. Sometimes distance is the language of respect. Sometimes stepping away is the most powerful expression of love a person can offer, because love that is secure does not panic when space appears. Love that is real understands that two people do not need to cling to each other every second to remain connected. They can grow separately while still respecting what they mean to each other. A man who truly values you does not want to become the center of your entire world. He wants you to have your own world, your own dreams, your own ambitions, your own identity that exists beyond the relationship. And if his presence begins to blur those lines, if his attention becomes something that distracts you from your own path, sometimes he will choose to remove himself from the spotlight, not because he stopped loving you, not because you were not enough, but because he believed you deserved the freedom to rise without anything holding you down. That kind of love is not selfish. It is not controlling. It is not desperate. It is patient, disciplined, and strong enough to endure the discomfort of distance if that distance protects the person he cares about. A man who truly cares about you understands something that many people never learn. He understands that love is not about being seen all the time. It is not about standing in the spotlight and proving his importance in your life every single day. Real love is quieter than that. Real love is discipline. Sometimes real love means stepping out of the spotlight so the woman he cares about can live in peace. Too many relationships are filled with noise, constant calls, constant questions, constant demands for attention. At first, it may feel flattering. It may feel like someone is deeply interested in you, but over time, that kind of attention can become heavy. It can become pressure. It can start to control how you think, how you spend your time, how you focus on your own life. A man who truly values you does not want to become a source of pressure in your life. He does not want your peace to depend on his constant presence. He understands that your happiness should not collapse the moment he is not around. He wants you to be strong on your own, confident on your own, peaceful on your own, When a man truly cares about your future, he is not afraid to take a step back from the spotlight. He does not need to dominate your attention every hour of the day. He does not need to constantly remind you that he exists. His love is not built on insecurity. An insecure man needs to be seen. He needs to be acknowledged constantly. If he does not hear from you for a few hours, his mind begins to panic. If he does not feel like he is the center of your attention, he becomes uncomfortable. That kind of energy slowly drains the relationship because it is built on fear rather than trust. But a man who truly respects you understands something deeper. He understands that peace is one of the most valuable things a person can have. Your peace of mind, your emotional balance, your ability to focus on your own life without constant distraction. He would rather protect that peace, aced and interrupted just to satisfy his ego. Sometimes protecting your peace means he chooses silence instead of constant conversation. Sometimes protecting your peace means he gives you room to think, room to breathe, room to focus on your responsibilities without feeling like someone is pulling on your attention every minute. That kind of discipline is rare because most people confuse attention with affection. They think if someone is not constantly showing up, constantly talking, constantly checking in, then that person must not care. But love that is built on constant noise often fades quickly because it burns too fast. A mature man understands timing. He understands presence. He knows that sometimes the most powerful thing he can do is step back and allow life to flow naturally instead of forcing himself into every moment. Imagine a man who is constantly interrupting your day. You are trying to focus on work, trying to study, trying to solve problems in your life. And every few minutes there is another message, another call, another demand for attention. At first it may feel romantic, but over time it begins to chip away at your concentration and your independence. A man who truly loves you pays attention to that. He notices when your energy needs to be directed toward your own goals. He notices when you need quiet. He notices when life requires your full focus. And instead of competing with those things, he chooses to respect them. Respect is a powerful form of love. It shows that he values your time. It shows that he values your responsibilities. It shows that he values the life you are building beyond the relationship. Sometimes this means he becomes less visible for a while. This, not because he lost interest, but because he understands that your life is not supposed to revolve around him. You have dreams, challenges, responsibilities, and personal growth that deserve your full attention. A man who truly cares does not try to overshadow those things. He does not try to pull you away from your purpose just so he can feel important. Instead, he quietly supports the idea that you should build a life that is strong and independent. There is a difference between absence and abandonment. Absence can be intentional space that protects growth. Abandonment is leaving without care or concern. A man who truly loves you does not abandon you. What he may do is step away from the spotlight so the relationship does not become overwhelming. Think about the strongest relationships you have seen in life. They are not always loud. They are not always public. They are not constantly proving themselves to the world. Often they are calm, balanced, and respectful of each person's individuality. When a man disappears from the spotlight for a while, it is sometimes his way of making sure the relationship remains healthy rather than suffocating. He does not want love to become something that consumes your entire identity. He wants it to exist alongside your purpose, not replace it. A man who loves you deeply understands that peace is fragile. Too much emotional noise can disturb it. Too much pressure can break it. Too many expectations can turn something beautiful into something stressful. So instead of constantly demanding attention, he shows restraint. Instead of trying to control every interaction, he allows space. Instead of making himself the center of your world, he respects the fact that your world is bigger than just a relationship. That choice requires strength. It requires emotional maturity. It requires the ability to love someone without needing to dominate their time or their thoughts. And sometimes the most respectful thing a man can do for the woman he cares about is quietly step out of the spotlight so her life, her focus, and her peace can remain clear and undisturbed. People often believe love is measured by how often someone is around. They think the more time a person spends beside you, the more they must care. They think love must always be visible, always active, always present in every moment. But real love does not always show itself through constant presence. Real love often shows itself through sacrifice, through quiet discipline, through choices that are difficult, uncomfortable, and sometimes misunderstood. When a man truly loves you, he does not only think about how he feels in the moment. He thinks about what is best for you in the long run. He thinks about what is best for you in the long run. That kind of thinking requires maturity because it forces him to step outside of his own emotions. It forces him to consider the bigger picture of your life, your growth, and your future. Sometimes the truth is simple, but hard to accept. Sometimes staying close to someone can actually make things more complicated. Feelings can become intense. Expectations can grow quickly. Life can start revolving around the relationship instead of the individual paths both people are meant to walk. A man who understands this does not always follow his impulses. Instead, he practices discipline. Discipline is not something people often associate with love. Most people associate love with passion, excitement, and emotion. But the strongest form of love is not uncontrolled emotion. The strongest form of love is controlled emotion. It is the ability to care deeply while still making wise decisions. A man who truly cares about you might feel the desire to be around you all the time. He might want to hear your voice every day, share every thought, be present in every moment. But discipline allows him to step back and ask himself an honest question. Is my constant presence helping her become stronger, or is it slowly making her dependent on me? Dependency can feel comforting at first. It feels good to know someone always needs you. It feels good to feel important in someone's life. But over time, dependency can become dangerous. When someone becomes emotionally dependent on another person for their happiness, their peace becomes fragile. If that person is absent for even a short time, everything begins to feel unstable. A man who truly loves you does not want your happiness to depend entirely on him. He wants your happiness to come from within yourself. He wants you to be strong, confident, and capable even when he is not around. That kind of strength makes a relationship healthier because it is built on two whole individuals rather than two people clinging to each other for emotional survival. That is where sacrifice begins to appear. Because it is not easy for a man to step away from someone he cares about. His emotions may pull him in the opposite direction. His heart may want to stay close, stay involved, stay connected every day. But discipline reminds him that love is not only about satisfying his own feelings. Sacrifice means choosing what is right, even when it hurts. Sacrifice means putting the well-being of another person above your immediate desires. When a man practices that kind of sacrifice, he shows a deeper level of care than someone who simply follows every emotional impulse. Sometimes this sacrifice takes the form of distance. He may choose to disappear for a while, not because his feelings changed, but because he understands that constant closeness might create problems neither of you are ready to handle. Life has seasons. Some seasons require focus, growth, and independence. Maybe you are building your career. Maybe you are discovering who you truly are. Maybe you are learning how to stand on your own without leaning too heavily on anyone else. A man who respects that process does not try to rush things or force a permanent closeness too soon. Instead, he shows discipline. He allows space for both of you to grow into stronger individuals. That space can feel confusing if someone only understands love through constant presence. But when you look deeper, that space often carries a hidden form of respect. Discipline and love also means controlling pride and ego. Many people stay in situations simply because they want to hold on, even when holding on creates tension or distraction. A disciplined man is willing to step back if it protects the bigger picture of the relationship. He does not make dramatic speeches about it. He does not try to create emotional chaos. Instead, he quietly accepts the discomfort of distance because he believes the long-term outcome matters more than the short-term comfort of staying close. This kind of love requires patience. Patience to allow life to unfold naturally. Patience to allow each person to grow without feeling rushed. Patience to accept that meaningful connections are not always built through constant interaction, but through respect, understanding, and time. Sacrifice, discipline, and patience are not flashy qualities. They do not create dramatic scenes or romantic stories that people talk about, but they create something far more valuable. They create stability. They create emotional strength. They create a foundation where two people can eventually come together without losing themselves. A man who loves you with discipline understands that sometimes the most powerful proof of love is the willingness to endure discomfort for the sake of something better in the future. He knows that stepping away might cause temporary confusion, but staying too close at the wrong time might cause permanent damage. So he accepts the sacrifice. He controls his impulses. He respects the process of growth. He allows life to shade. Both of you, without forcing the relationship to carry more weight than it is ready to hold. And through that quiet discipline, through that silent sacrifice, he demonstrates a kind of love that is not driven by momentary emotion, but guided by the deeper understanding that what truly matters is the strength, peace, and future of the person he cares about. Many people believe love is proven by how tightly someone holds on. They think the strongest love is the one that refuses to let go, the one that fights to stay no matter what happens. They imagine love as something that must cling, something that must resist distance at all costs. But the truth about love is often much more complex than that. Sometimes the strongest love is the one that has the courage to walk away when stayed would slowly destroy what both people could become. Walking away is one of the hardest decisions a person can make when emotions are involved. It goes against the instinct to hold on to what feels meaningful. When you care about someone, your natural desire is to stay close, to fix every problem, to keep the connection alive, no matter how difficult things become. But real love is not blind. Real love pays attention to reality. A man who truly cares about you understands that relationships should help both people grow. They should create strength, stability, and clarity in life. When a relationship begins to do the opposite, when it starts creating confusion, distraction, or emotional damage, a mature person has to face an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes love alone is not enough to justify staying. This does not mean the feelings were fake. It does not mean the connection was meaningless. It simply means that Love must exist within a healthy environment to survive. When that environment becomes unhealthy, when the relationship begins to pull both people away from their purpose, their growth, or their peace, continuing to stay can cause more harm than good. Courage is often misunderstood in relationships. People think courage means fighting endlessly for something, refusing to accept defeat, refusing to let go even when everything around them is falling apart. But sometimes courage looks very different. Sometimes courage means recognizing that holding on too tightly can slowly destroy the very thing you care about. A man who truly values you does not want to watch you lose yourself in a situation that no longer helps you grow. He does not want to see your energy drained by constant conflict, constant misunderstanding, or constant emotional tension. If staying together begins to damage your well-being, he faces a difficult choice. He can ignore the signs and continue pretending everything is fine, or he can accept the painful reality that walking away might protect both of you from becoming worse versions of yourselves. That decision requires strength because walking away from someone you love is never easy. People often talk about love as if it is only about emotion. People often talk about love as if it is only about emotion. They talk about passion, attraction, chemistry, and excitement. But real love also includes responsibility. It includes the responsibility to think about the long-term impact of your choices. It includes the responsibility to protect the future of the person you care about. Sometimes staying in a relationship that is not healthy prevents both people from reaching their full potential. Instead of building each other up, they begin holding each other back. Dreams get delayed. Opportunities get ignored. Personal growth slows down because so much energy is spent trying to manage the relationship itself. A man who truly cares about you does not want to become the reason your life becomes smaller. He does not want your world to shrink because of emotional struggles that neither of you can resolve at that moment in time. He wants you to have the freedom to grow, to pursue your purpose, and to build a life that reflects your full potential. That is where courage appears. Courage to accept that love does not always mean staying together forever. Courage to recognize that sometimes two people care about each other deeply, but are not in the right place in life to build something stable. Courage to step away before the relationship turns into resentment or regret. Walking away in that situation is not an act of weakness. It is not surrender. It is a difficult form of respect. It shows that the man values your future more than he values the comfort of holding on to the present moment. Many people stay in relationships simply because they are afraid of loss. They fear the pain of separation. They fear loneliness. They fear the uncertainty of life without the person they have grown attached to. That fear can trap people in situations that slowly drain their energy and prevent them from becoming who they are meant to be. A man who loves you with maturity does not allow fear to control his decisions. He understands that temporary pain is sometimes necessary to protect long-term well-being. He understands that holding on too tightly can prevent both people from discovering the paths they are meant to walk. When he chooses to walk away, it is rarely dramatic. He does not make it a performance. He does not try to blame or create unnecessary conflict. Instead, the decision comes from a quiet understanding that forcing the relationship to continue in its current state would only cause deeper damage over time. That choice reflects patience, self-awareness, and respect. It reflects the ability to see beyond immediate emotions and consider what will truly benefit both people in the future. It reflects the understanding that love is not just about staying close, but about protecting each other from situations that could break your spirit. The strongest love is not always the loudest. It is not always the one that insists on staying together no matter how painful things become. Sometimes the strongest love is the one that chooses dignity, growth, and peace, even when that choice requires walking away from someone you deeply care about. That kind of love does not disappear completely. It remains in the respect that both people carry forward into their lives. It remains in the lessons learned, in the strength gained, and in the understanding that sometimes the bravest decision a person can make is to step aside so both individuals can continue growing toward the future they're meant to build